Hey everyone, welcome to Group Text. So, someone I actually know today, but I'm still gonna give you the intro because, well, I am. On the hit reality show $1 Million Listing Los Angeles, Tracy Tutor has sold everything from modern mansions to kooky craftsmen in Beverly Hills, the OC in Las Vegas, all while balancing her dating life as well as parenting her teenage daughters, Juliet and Scarlett. Tracy and her co-stars, Josh Altman and Josh Flagg, who is both of our very, very good friends, are back as the show begins. I cannot believe I'm saying this, 15th season on Bravo. New episodes air starting July 10th at 9 p.m. Tracy Tutor, finally, welcome to Group Text.
Hi, how are you, Melissa?
I'm upright. Yourself?
I'm good. Just hustling over here. You know how it is.
It's all a hustle. So, which I didn't know until I started reading about you a little bit, stuff I didn't know. Real estate wasn't always your plan.
No, it wasn't. I actually, studied theater at USC. I grew up dancing. I was even in a singing group in my teen years. I don't know how that happened because my voice is absolutely horrific. But I went to USC and studied theater, and I really wanted to do stage and do Broadway and act. And I graduated and was doing the whole audition circuit for a few years. And I went, I don't really like the way this is going. I didn't really feel in control of my own financial destiny. And so what better industry to get into than selling real estate?
But your father is a builder and developer. So it's almost like your plan B was just sort of staring you in the face. I mean, how happy were your parents when they went, oh, thank God she's not going to be an actress?
I know. I remember telling my dad, when I was in that singing group and I was 16 years old, and I was like, when I accept my first Grammy, I am never going to thank you, Listen, my dad is a massive infrastructure contractor, internationally. And so he's bridges and tunnels and hotels and all that kind of infrastructure. And my ex-husband is actually a residential builder, and my two sisters are interior designers. So when I said that I wanted to get into real estate, they were happier that I was no longer going to be auditioning and waiting tables on the side to make ends meet. So it was a couple of years of, it's still a commission-based job. It didn't have a salary. I went into it, thinking I had a ton of connections, grew up in LA. This shouldn't be too difficult, but I learned the hard way and, climbed my way up that ladder and started making decent money and was able to support myself, which was that financial independence for me was really important. And I looked at a few of my friends that were actors that, were still at 38, 39, 45, struggling to make ends meet. And I just didn't want to do that anymore.
Right. And secretly, after you told them, they looked at each other and went, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, they did.
So, again, you grew up in LA, and we'll get into what a crazy real estate town Los Angeles is in a minute. What was your very first sale?
Oh, we were talking about this the other day. That first year was such a blur to me because I came in again thinking, because I had all of these incredible connections and grew up in the city and obviously had a family that was in real estate, that was all going to come super easy to me. And it did not. I sat across from the manager of the first brokerage that I worked for. And I had, a little bit, maybe too much confidence / ego. And I said, I got to make $90,000 a year to survive. And he's like, do you have any idea what agents typically make in their first year? And I said, no. And he said, $30,000 a year. And I said, well, that's just not going to work for me. I'll make triple that. And he said, you're hired. And then what do you think I made that first year? $31,000.
But you need that kind of confidence.
You do, but you also need to be brought back down to earth and be reminded that it's not just connections, and it's not, I grew up here and I know fancy houses and this is all just going to come to me. And I learned that the hard way. But I think my first sale was around $3.5 million. It was in the Hollywood Hills. And of course, you start counting your commission check before the deal closes, which is so typical for a green agent. You're like, wow, just this one deal, and I'm representing a buyer, and I'm going to make X, you know, 6 figures, or I'm going to make, 5 figures on this deal. This is what I was hoping to make this year. And so I closed that deal, which was exciting. And then it was silent again. So lo and behold, a year into the business, I went, ooh, maybe me being out on my own as a green agent isn't really the route that I should be taking. I need to like join a team and be around people that are doing deals every day, not 1 or 2 deals a year. So I joined a team that was incredibly rewarding. And I was watching every single day and learning from the best. And then I think by my 3rd year, I had made like, $500,000. And that was pretty damn exciting. And then I went, this is for me. This is the long haul.
So you brought up something interesting though. One of the things I always say is everybody can continuously learn. And you grew up in the business. How did you check yourself? Because it's hard to do and say, I need to shut up and watch and learn.
Yeah.
Did you have one of those sort of clear moments where you went, people might know more than me?
I mean, I always knew that they knew more than me, but I really outweighed, the fact that I grew up in LA and the fact that I came from a reputable family that had a background in construction and design. And obviously, going to USC and thinking,
Right.
God, I know people everywhere in this town, whether it's Malibu or Brentwood or Beverly Hills, like I got this. And, I was smacked in the face pretty hard when I recognized there isn't a smart person that has an asset that is arguably the most important asset they own, that they're going to hand some 24-year-old with 2 years experience selling real estate their $20 million asset. And so that was like oh yeah, connections are important, but they certainly aren't everything. I need to get dirty. I need to wake up earlier than everybody. I need to be around people that are doing more business than me to elevate, everything that I'm doing. And that's exactly what I did. And it was, like I said, 2-3 years before I really understood like the value of being on a team and sort of recognizing that there were a lot more successful people that I needed to surround myself with in order to elevate my own business.
A lot of kids or a lot of people who grew up in LA and come from privileged backgrounds don't get the hustle. Did you always have that ambition? Did you always have that inner strength to say, I got to run? I got to like hustle, like you said, get up earlier and do all these things. Did you have that as a kid?
I did. And I think because, my dad his grandfather came over, Armenian background. He came here at 9 years old with no family. My dad went to Van Nuys High, grew up with nothing. And so he had that innate hustle of wake up before everybody. And so growing up around that, despite the fact that my father was successful by the time I was born and then just became increasingly successful as I became a young adult, he always worked. So I always had that in me. Like I wasn't the rich kid who was driving, the BMW at 16 and moved up to a Porsche by the time I was 18. I was the kid that, because my friends worked after school, I went and got a job at the Northridge Mall before I even turned 16 selling suits for a living. So that was my first like endeavor into like a commission-based job, because if I sold 5 suits, then I would get like a bonus on the commission. So I started recognizing that I had like, there was something about me that, could sell ice to Eskimos. But also I think because I was an actor, you got to wake up every day and sell yourself anyway. So I innately had the experience of, if I don't get up and get out there and walk into a room and figure out how to connect and be present with these people, I'm not going to ever be successful. And so I did not connect the dots between having the background in being an actor, you know, in my teen years and in my very early 20s to, oh, this could be really beneficial for me as an agent. But it made me be able to, at 25, 26, and even 27, walk into a room and own it. And because I was taught that very early on.
Yeah, even if you just fake it. I know sometimes I'm going in like gulp and I'm and they go, oh, you're so confident. I'm like, it is such imposter syndrome.
You're like, I am totally sweating.
Idea.
I am sweating on the inside, but I am going to show you that I am not.
By the way, my mother was that way socially. She was always very shy and she always felt like she was going to disappoint people because if she was seated next to someone like at a dinner party, she was always like, they expect the TV and on stage Joan, not the real Joan.
Right.
So her fear was always, oh God, they're going to think I'm boring.
Right.
And it's
right.
So I get that completely. So let's go back to shallow things because we all enjoy that more. What was your first big sale?
Oh my goodness. Actually, there's an interesting story here. So my dad has always been my biggest critic while being my biggest fan. And
by the way, I can relate to that.
And, you know, he never really like handed me much when it came to real estate and still to this day does not. But he was moving out of Hidden Hills, that's where I grew up and wanted to be on this side of town. And he said, all right, why don't you take me out and show me some houses? And we started looking at things. And, you know, at the time, Hidden Hills wasn't what it was today. And my dad probably had one of the biggest houses in Hidden Hills at the time, which I think is now owned by the Kardashians.
Yeah. I mean, Hidden Hills is blown up.
Blown up. But, you know, back in the day, it was very much like a horse community and a totally different animal. So when we started looking at houses, this was... God, I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, and we started looking at houses all over Beverly Hills and Bel Air. And I called Mauricio Umansky and I said, you know, do you have anything, you know, potentially in Beverly Park? And he said, I do. It's sort of in mid-construction right now, and you know, but you know, I can walk you through it and give you an idea. It's going to be spectacular. So we walked into this house with Mauricio in Beverly Park. Actually, I was pregnant. And
so it was your daughter's first sale too.
Yeah, it was my daughter's first sale too. I was pregnant with Juliet. And we ended up purchasing that house and it was north of $30 million. And I thought that I had just landed like the biggest deal of my career. And of course, at the time it was. So that was a huge moment for me. And I thought, oh my God, the sky is the limit here. But I'll be honest with you, he didn't make it easy. He wasn't like, of course, I'm going to give you everything. Of course.
No, he was going to torture you.
Oh no, he walked me through that. He put me through the grind during that negotiation. He told me to stop talking until I am spoken to. You know, he was an education in how to deal with difficult men and women. So I learned from the best. So I think that's why today, you know, someone says, oh man, that guy is one of the most intimidating men you will ever walk into a room with. And I say, you haven't met Ron Tutor.
So that brings us right to, you know, the show is coming back and it's wonderful. And it's not just real estate porn. It's like a reality show about relationships with really good real estate porn.
Yeah.
How did you connect with both of whom I know, Josh and Josh?
Well, you know, the show has, I think, become, I believe, a better show in the last few years because the focus of $1 Million Listing and the fan base has been so loyal to us for so many years. It has always been about the real estate, and it's been less maybe about relationships and personal drama and the dynamics between the agents on the show. And I think, it's very difficult to do that when you have 5 or 6 different agents that you're following and we're all selling these great houses. And so you're following that narrative and you don't necessarily get to see what happens behind the scenes in terms of our friendships. And organically, Altman, Flagg, and I happen to be, really good friends. And with that comes highs and lows, because it's one thing to have your friends outside of work, but when you're all working together, competing against each other, losing listings to Altman, winning one over Flagg, like those are.
That must have made him happy.
But those are the dynamics that I think make it interesting. And then trying to, of course, maintain a friendship when you're competitive with each other in business is something fun to watch on TV. And this season, this season it gets, once again, when you think everything's kosher and we're all on the same page, it does get a little bit, tenuous and a little bit stressful in terms of our friendship.
When did you realize that you were actually famous? There's always that weird, but there's always that first moment where someone goes, "Oh my God, you are," or "I love your show." What was the first time that happened to you?
Airports. Airports are always a really funny thing. And when I'm on an airplane, and I'm really kind, I think, to our fans, because all they ever want is to just say hi and you resonate with me and, you're the reason I got into the business. To me, that's what a beautiful moment. If I had anything to do with any female's success in the industry, or I was a reason that they left the job that they were miserable at, or they had kids, but they felt like they wanted to, get back into the workforce, and I inspired them to do that. Like, what an honor that is. So for me, it's always seems to be like in the TSA line, and
it's so funny.
You've got your hair in a knot on your head, you look like an absolute disaster, and something like that happens. And I'm always like super grateful for it. Yeah. So I love our fans. I think they're the most loyal fans on earth, but there isn't a day that goes by that I don't sort of pinch myself. But in terms of like famous, I mean, we live in LA, Melissa.
Well, I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about out in the real world.
Yeah, like
in LA, it's a whole different thing.
Oh yeah, they take you down.
I always get the. I know you. I know you.
Oh yeah, did we go to high school together? You look super familiar.
Yeah. Did we go to high school? Yeah, it's a lot, especially at the airport. There's a lot of that.
I know.
I want to go back to the shallow, because that really is my happy place, which is why Josh Flagg and I are friends. Biggest sale to date?
I sold a property late 2022 for $57.5 million.
What was it? What did the house have? Why was it that much?
It is, in my opinion, one of the most special pieces of actual property in all of Los Angeles. It's almost 7 acres, all usable. It's special. I mean, you know how hard it is to find land in LA. I work in Texas now. They're like, 7 acres? Like, how about 55? How about 100? But in LA, good land is hard to come by. And so this piece of property was almost 7 acres in Brentwood, with a really beautiful special house on it. And my client was looking for land. And so that was really important to her. And we found it and we secured it. And it was incredibly exciting.
You just brought up that you've expanded out of LA. And last season we saw a lot of Las Vegas. And there was a house that had, I just want to make sure I get this right, a car elevator in the owner's suite and a man cave that had an ATM in it.
That sounds like a Josh Altman property all day long, doesn't it?
Well, first of all, the car elevator into the owner's suite, like that's just, I can't. And your own personal ATM just feels like it makes you be more disciplined fiscally. Because you can only take out so much at a time. Sorry. What is the most bizarre thing you've seen? And what has been the most bizarre request?
I have seen a lot in my day. I will say on that particular sale that I was just sharing with you, when we first looked at it, there was like a bunker, if you will, where it was like an underground separate guest house where in the middle of the grass, you walk down a flight of like 15 stairs and it was like a bunker. And when you walked in, it looked like there was some CIA shit going on in there. Like, I'm not joking. Like there was like security cameras and I'm like, this guy is for sure like an underground, like CIA op situation. And, my client ended up turning it into a wellness center, but that was one of the most bizarre things because I went, this guy knows who we are, where, I don't know, like, is the president coming here? Like, what is happening down here? But that bunker was a trip, but I have seen.
But by the way, how very LA from bunker to personal wellness center.
Of course, it's a wellness center.
I mean, that is the most LA thing I've heard in a long time.
Totally. Fun one for you because you love this. I was showing a client of mine. She owned a company called Young, Fabulous, and Broke, and we had 2 side-by-side properties up in the Bird Streets with huge views. That was going to be a massive development site. And but at the time, while we were showing, the houses were rented out on, a short-term basis. And I never knew who was going to be there. So I take this very proper British developer to one of the sites. And I go, okay, well, let's go to this one first. It's easier to get in. We can walk in the backyard and you can see the view. And he's got his 3-piece suit on, the whole ascot, the whole situation.
Right. The whole thing.
We open the gate and there is a gay porn being shot poolside in the backyard with camera crews, and this British developer I thought was going to faint. And we walked in and I was like, welcome to LA, darling. This is a side hustle. You know what I mean?
I was looking at a house at one point that I was absolutely in love with. And the realtor says to me, and there's a full-size basement downstairs, which could be a gym, an office, is the size of the house. It's got a working fireplace. I said, oh, I'd love to see it. She goes, you can't see it until you're in escrow. So we did a little digging. The woman was a dominatrix.
Oh, hell yeah.
So her dungeon in Pacific Palisades.
In the Palisades?
Yes.
That is not on brand.
No, but I loved that. I know I only have a few more minutes with you. Dating. Dating. How do you, first of all, it's hard enough to date as a successful woman, and then you throw in 2 kids, and then you throw in TV personality. How do you date?
I mean, I have recognized that dating apps are a no-fly zone for me. I went on a couple of dates from a dating app, and there's just a lot of misrepresentation, I think, particularly in this city, who you are online versus who you are in reality are often 2 different things. I do a lot of first dates. Rarely make it to a second.
Why?
Do
you scare people in a good way? Like, I would scare people, you're so intimidating. And again, it's like, if you only knew how insecure I actually was.
I mean, truth. Yeah. I think that men who are my age or 10 years my senior that are successful have obviously perhaps been married before, have families of their own, and they're looking for something just a little bit easier. Not necessarily an equal, perhaps someone that's like just grateful to have a handbag and a trip to Greece once a year and, be taken out to dinner. And I want more than that. Well, more than a handbag. I want like a partnership where my opinion matters and what I have to say means something. And that I think, for some men, maybe perhaps in their later 50s or early 60s, or like,
they don't want that,
especially
in LA.
I've already got an ex-wife who's got a lot of opinions. The last thing I need is a girlfriend who wants an equal partnership. And so that's a little bit more challenging. I kind of am looking for someone who appreciates what I do for a living and thinks it's awesome that I'm successful in my own right. And I don't know if that is something that a lot of men, I think they want to appreciate it and respect it, but they also sort of want you at their beck and call. And that is not something that I can do. My kids are too important. My career is too important. So there lies the rub, I guess.
Well, it took me only 22 years. So there you go. Tracy, I adore you. I could talk to you literally forever. We're going to have to do this again.
Yes.
New season of $1 Million Listing Los Angeles starts July 10th at 9 p.m. Tracy, always fun with you.
Thanks, Melissa. I love you. Have an amazing day. And we'll talk soon. We need to do it over drinks.